I'm trying to start at a quieter portion of that GD song, but either way, it is the Audible. It's our weekly recap of week 5. We got to start in London. I guess the Giants are good. Or I guess the Packers' struggles continue. We'll talk about it because it's 27-22 Giants over the Packers. Giants are 4-1. Way to go, Brian Dable. Packers are 3-2. Daniel Jones, 217 yards. And then he didn't do anything as far as touchdowns or interceptions. Saquon Barkley, 13 for 70 and a touch. Gary Brightwell, 2 for 5 and a touch. Daniel Bellinger, San Diego State Aztecs, baby, got a rushing touchdown. Darius Slayton, 6 for 79. Barkley had 3 for 36 as a receiver. Marcus Johnson, 3 for 35. Daniel Bellinger, and 2 for 22. As you can see, even Richie James, 2 for 16. And David Sills, 2 for 12. They did it differently, and they did it with those 3 rushing touchdowns to get part of their score, but not all.
Different is a good word here, Cease, talking about the Giants. You just feel like it's different. And we can go back to week 1 when they came back and beat the Titans, and you thought, oh, just kind of a fluke, like some of these other outcomes we've seen. And we're revisiting some of those outcomes and saying, well, what do they really mean now that we know some different things about these teams? What we know about the Giants are that, hey, they're willing to let Daniel Jones run. They're willing to put the offense on Saquon Barkley's shoulders, and they have a winning attitude. They think of themselves as winners. They think they're going to find ways to win games. They make adjustments. Wow. They make adjustments, and they trust their players. Particularly Jones and Barkley, they trust their players. And, otherwise from a fantasy standpoint, this team is 4-1. I mean, that overshadows everything. But you also remember this when we look back over Daniel Jones' value. Saquon Barkley's value can't get much higher, but there were 2 touchdowns here that didn't go. They went to Gary Brightwell and Daniel Bellinger. Bellinger's interesting. Bellinger, a player they're kind of forced to trust after Ricky Seals-Jones went down. Keeping him on our radar deep in fantasy leagues. Not necessarily someone that's going to matter, but he scored on a carry in this one. And then there's Darius Slayton. And see, so we can remember in his rookie year, he looked good. And when you look that good as a wide receiver in your rookie year, I know rookie wide receivers, but he wasn't expected to look that good. This was kind of a Darnell Mooney-ish flash early in his career and didn't really do much and got buried. They bring in Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney. They bring in these players, Wan'Dale Robinson. Well, they're all hurt. So they have to play Darius Slayton. And lo and behold, Darius Slayton can still play. The Giants can play. And it'll be a real interesting game as they face Baltimore next week.
It will be an interesting week for Aaron Rodgers, always the grumpy one.
Yeah.
But 2 touchdowns today, 222 through the air, Randall Cobb, 7 for 99. Alan Lazard, 4 for 35. Romeo, 3 for 29. Robert Tonyan, 4 for 23 in this contest. It was Mercedes Lewis. He's still kicking around with the receiving touchdown there as well. And then to the ground game, Aaron Jones, 13 for 63. A.J. Dillon, 6 for 34. So, 20 carries, 39 passes. And the news item that I reported on, I believe it was Friday or Saturday, Bloom said, Rodgers wants to air it out. Well, you didn't win. So do what works. And for the Packers, that had been featuring those 2 backs.
See, as we think about this, I'm thinking about Eric Stoner, the legendary Eric Stoner. He sent me like the little dominoes where the domino ends up being like, 5 feet wide. And you start out with Let Russ Cook, and then We Ruined Football, right? And you feel like this tension, right? And you think about Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. We'll talk about Geno Smith a little bit later. You think about Aaron Rodgers. Remember all the stuff with Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, right?
Right.
And like you said, Rodgers wants to throw downfield. Well, first of all, Rodgers just doesn't have that chemistry with his downfield targets that he had when he had Devontae Adams. And 0 for 6 in the deep passing game, which I believe is his worst performance in the deep passing game, period. And when you think about Aaron Rodgers and you think about what can make this offense go, it is those patient deep shots off of play action, those perfectly thrown balls. And it wasn't there. So everything gets a little compressed. And this team you would think they're going to grind out long drives with the running game. A.J. Dillon running well, but not getting on track. Aaron Jones running well. And you see maybe, again, you come back to, is this offense in its best mode, especially with the offensive line injuries? Now you have the full tackle group. You have Jenkins and Bakhtiari. However, you're still rounding into form with these wide receivers. Maybe this should be a run-first offense. Maybe this should be an offense that sets up Aaron Rodgers for 20, 25 pass attempts. That's it. And let's give some credit to Wink Martindale and this Giants defense. Again, adjustments. This game was 17-3. It was 20-10. This was going to be, well, it went as expected, except no, it didn't go as expected. Or for Randall Cobb. And isn't that a sign, Cease, that Rodgers is flailing a little bit? 13 targets.
The flailings. What's the flailings?
The flailings. Yeah, because, and I get it, Randall Cobb, and in some ways, there's a little bit of fantasy theory here that, well, in this situation, Rodgers would lean on Cobb because that's the guy he has the most chemistry with, the most experience with. But I think that's a bad sign. That's like a check engine light coming on for this offense. So we'll see. And they're going to face, and Lazard had a touchdown. Lazard's still worthy. There were some targets that Lazard had where Rodgers was hoping and challenging him to win one-on-one. It wasn't necessarily winning one-on-one. Again, here's that fantasy question at the kernel of Lazard going into drafts this year. Is he a number one receiver?
Right.
Results are mixed. And then speaking of results are mixed, facing the Jets team, a plucky Jets team next week. Who knows?
Right. Who knows? Because Robert Saleh is going to have you fired up to play, going to have you ready to run through a brick wall. And the check engine light, Bloom. Yeah. Now, you're not a gearhead, and I appreciate you, brother. You're more resourceful than some people would think, though. Like, you love gardening. Sure. You can do some things in terms of like
grass every now and then. I touch some grass.
It's okay. Touch grass. Just don't touch cloth. Anyway, because I always laugh when, because what does it mean to be a manly man? When people make fun of me because I love comic books or something, there's still that out there, which is remarkable. And I go, I can rebuild an engine with my bare hands. Like I can bore cylinders with my bare hands. And that takes a lot of precision. Either way, do you know what they call the check engine light in the mechanics world?
This is gonna be good. Oh Jesus! It's like the I want to say sorry Joe alert. Like somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. Yeah,
you're on the same track. It's a dummy light.
A dummy light. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rodgers, your dummy light's on. Go get that. Go get it checked out.
I was thinking dipstick, but change the stick.
Yeah, there you go. Change it. Don't change that dial. Because we are going to talk about our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, and my best friend is a Bills fan. So 38-3 is kind of what we thought. Biggie texted me this morning, and he was like, good luck to your Steelers every day except for today. And I said, just don't hurt him. And by him, I meant the kid. I meant Kenny Pickett. Yeah, he got some fire, man.
Oh my God, we killed Kenny.
Yeah. So he's got some fire, and I like seeing that. He only threw one pick today, 38-3. The final score. Buffalo rolls as we knew they would. But 34-52, 327 yards, no touchdowns, one INT. Again, I thought he'd throw 3 picks again. George Pickens, 6 for 83. It's working. Deontay Johnson got more work than I thought. So did Chase Claypool. So you're seeing, more of an emphasis there. Of course, he throws it 50 times. 5 for 60 for Johnson, 5 for 50 for Claypool. Zach Gentry, 5 for 43 in this contest. Jaylen Warren leads away on the ground, 24 yards. That was it. And then 4 for 39. Najee Harris had 11 for 20 on the ground, and then 3 for 16 as a receiver. Pat Freiermuth, tight end is so bad. 2 for 12. Oh, okay. But that's all you got from the Steelers today. So we knew it would be ugly, Bloom, but there are some things along the way that I liked seeing from the young one, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, starting over. Not to abruptly change the tone and then change the tone back to a recap, but I do want to take time out, a quick moment, because this is our community, it's our family, and I know people have been reaching out, just sending vague well wishes. I was not around Thursday and this morning, but I'm here now. But I do want to acknowledge that my father, Sigmund L. Bloom, age 85, he passed away on Thursday. And I'm telling you folks, because if you like me and you enjoy consuming the way the world slants through my brain, then a lot of that Sigmund L. And I won't say more except that a lot of the reasons I love sports was probably originally to bond with him. And he would probably say something about the Steelers today, like, if they don't fix the offensive line, it doesn't matter. And I could tell lots of legendary stories about him going back to the 30s and Pittsburgh sports. And just why do we love sports? Because it brings us all closer together. So I just wanted to to share that to everybody. And I'm okay. And I know y'all and your sentiments are fantastic. And I feel your presence. And let's get back to talking about the Steelers. Because like you said, Cease, they didn't kill Kenny yet. You saw him take a late hit and spring up. That's what you want to see, the fight, right?
Push guys around, yeah.
Yeah. And there's no shame in getting thumped by this Buffalo team. All right. However, there is this idea, I think, that the Steelers are about to go through a rebuild like we haven't seen since. I'm not really sure where.
Not even really the Tommy Maddox days.
No, definitely not the Tommy Maddox days. Yeah.
This is weird.
And there wasn't a rebuild when Roethlisberger took over.
Mark Malone, maybe.
I mean, but there's never been a moment so are we going back to like Mean Joe Green and Terry Bradshaw? I mean, a moment where the Steelers are saying we kind of have to start over. Or do they know that internally? I don't know, because they haven't had this quarterback that's going to become the identity and face of the franchise like they do right now in Kenny Pickett. And it all starts and ends with Kenny Pickett. And what you see is he's just going to keep throwing. From a fantasy standpoint, you're more excited to have George Pickens, even Deontay Johnson, who's the king of the almost amazing play. And not doing that much for us. But if you know that you're going to see Pickett continue to make throws, and that's going to lead remember, this is a Buffalo defense that had been holding opposing quarterbacks to a lower fantasy score than Cooper Rush or Mitchell Trubisky or Justin Fields. And that was really it for the Steelers. You had some moments, Cease, like it's 24-3 in the first half. It's 4th and 5. Tomlin tries a field goal and Boswell misses it, right? There's the football gods clicking you on the ear saying, come on, you got to score touchdowns. Keep fighting. Pat Frymouth had a concussion in this one. You saw some Zach Gentry. And we'll see, but this game, Cease, it was 31-3 at halftime, and it was worse than that. The actual play was worse than 31-3 at halftime.
Yeah. So kind of lucky it wasn't worse. Please, Hammer, don't hurt him, or please, Josh, don't hurt him. 424 yards through the air. That's enough hurt. 4 touchdowns, 1 INT. James Cook with a rushing touchdown today, 4 for 31 and a touch. We were wondering, with Singletary getting more work as a receiver in recent weeks, like, well, will Cook get a little bit more? Cook didn't get anything through the air, but he got a rushing touchdown. And again, it's a blowout, so whatever. Gabe Davis, 3 for 171 and 2 touchdowns. This is what you were waiting for. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with Gabe Davis? Nothing now.
No.
In a blowout. Stephon Diggs, 8 for 102 and a touch. Khalil Shakir, got some Khalil Shakir questions. And I thought McKenzie was going to play. Did they late scratch and bloom, or did I read it wrong? Because here comes Shakir, and he goes 3 for 75 and a touch. And McKenzie doesn't get anything. Tanner Gentry was on the field, so that tells you how deep they were going. They don't run the ball. Josh Allen, 42 yards to lead the way. Devin Singletary, 42 yards to tie, leading the way. So even in a blowout, like you would think, okay, bench Josh Allen at halftime, run the ball, give, Cook 20 carries or whatever, Moss 10 carries. And it's not their DNA, man. This is what they're going to be. They're going to kick the crap out of you and then tell you about it.
Yeah. This game, again, the Steelers, they tried. They blocked a field goal. They intercepted a Josh Allen in the end zone. Levi Wallace, actually, former Bill. It's okay. So it could have been 41-3 at the half or 44.
Right. Right.
I mean, whatever. You saw Davis from 98 and Buffalo muffs the kickoff. No, you got him backed up at the 1-2 yard line. Okay. Well, 98-yard touchdown. You saw another long touchdown, and the wind was bad. I mean, that's Josh Allen, the ultimate in Wyoming, right? The ultimate cold weather quarterback. Just it doesn't even change his approach. With Singletary, you're going to have these floor weeks, but you still have the clear number 1 running back and a great offense. Things were just too easy. It was just too easy against the Steelers for them to need Devin Singletary to get some first downs, to get some easy yards in the passing game. Stephon Diggs gobbling up those catches. Khalil Shakir looks good, really good, a strong and swift runner, and he's coming. So just making these great draft picks one after another. Now, remember, Davis was a 4th round pick, Shakir a 5th round pick. You did have Cook getting the garbage time touchdown. And what can you say? This team is just a buzzsaw. And I didn't get to mention, by the way, that Tampa Bay is coming to Pittsburgh. But I mentioned this in our ritual in the recap where we talk about next week's game, because next week, Cease, Buffalo's going to Kansas City.
Preview time, Super Bowl preview time, as we continue, and we are rolling with the Chargers and the Browns. That is our next game to recap, and the Chargers get the win. So there you go. Los Angeles 30-28, the final score. Justin Herbert 228 and a touchdown, no INTs. Austin Ekeler 16 for 173 and a touchdown. Joshua Kelly 10 for 49 and a touchdown. Ekeler also had 4 for 26 and a receiving touchdown. There's a reason why he takes himself number one in fantasy drafts. Mike Williams goes 10 for 134 in this contest. They thought they might have Keenan Allen back. Instead, it's more Mike Williams, Allen, maybe Monday night against the Broncos. And that slaughter, it is a Bronco show. I'll leave that alone, Bloom. We are doing a recap of the Sunday games, of the early games.
You owe everyone a rant.
Yeah.
You can decide when and where.
It'll be there. It'll be there for sure. But so the Chargers win, and we're talking a lot about Jacoby Brissett just a little bit, but they win in a way where you're like, that was a little different than I thought it might look.
Yeah. They win in a way they usually lose, really.
Yeah.
And the theme of the preview was, are these teams good? So we have to give a little bit of some gratification, right? I think both of these teams are good, or at least good enough to beat a good team. Does that make sense? I mean, I think they're actually, these teams have some merit. And in this game, the Chargers win a game on the road. And these are the kind of games that can decide who, especially in the AFC, who's going to make the playoffs and who's not. This could be a game we look back and say it decided a playoff spot. And early on, it was rough. Denzel Ward looked like he committed pass interference on a fourth down on a Mike Williams target, but went all right. And then you see Austin Ekeler get going with a 71-yard run. I think it was maybe Greedy Williams running him down from behind. A field goal, only a field goal. But you see this team, I think this is Justin Herbert more than Brandon Staley. Because again, you had Staley at the end of this game, maybe giving this game away, going for it on 4th and 2 when you're only up 2 points near midfield and setting up the Browns with a short field. So you like the boldness, but at the same time, when you're only up 2, it's a different proposition if you're up 4, right? And then the game is basically over. But anyway, you saw Ekeler take control of this game, getting a capping touchdown on a 99-yard drive. It's kind of funny to think back a couple of weeks ago, see some people saying, Austin Ekeler looks like a bust. They're not using him at the goal line. Why did we spend a first-round pick on Austin Ekeler? Well, he's reminding everybody. Mike Williams reminding everybody why the Chargers gave him $20 million a year. And they made enough plays. They made enough plays with a game against Denver. There's your Denver Seas coming up next week. Cleveland made more than enough plays. And see, I feel like this team should be 5-0, right? How did they lose to Atlanta? They lost to Atlanta. How did they lose to Atlanta? They lost to the Jets in a 99.9% win probability scenario. And see, they lose this one when there's so many ways they could have won.
So many ways they could have won. And, well, the Browns, Jacoby Brissett, that fight, you love to see it. Now, 231 touchdown, 1 INT. But again, it's the picking up, a 20-yard run when the chips are down, moving the chains, holding, court, if you will. If you're Jacoby Brissett, you're doing some good things, even with a lead in this one. So David Njoku getting fed 6 for 88. Hey, tight end's brutal. You're loving the fact you got David Njoku wherever you got him. Amari Cooper 7 for 76 and a touch. Donovan Peoples-Jones 4 for 50 in this one. Kareem Hunt 11 for 47 and a touchdown on the ground. Also 3 for 10 as a receiver. Nick Chubb 17 for 134 and 2 touchdowns. So I guess you can have a lot of fight when you have Nick Chubb.
Right.
But Jacoby Brissett, I usually make fun, and I was thinking about you today, Bloom. But I usually make fun of Cooper Rush like all the time. Like, hey, he's going to make some money. Well, Brissett's making himself some money.
Yeah,
wherever he goes.
He is, but and the thing is, he's doing well enough. I mean, let's again keep this in focus for fantasy. He's doing well enough that Amari Cooper's an every week play, even with some ups and downs. Nick Chubb, if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb would be, but hey, Chubb was a 3rd-round pick, so maybe it should be Chubb over Barkley because Chubb cost less. Maybe it's Chubb as a league winner, busting off a 41-yarder to start. See, could you imagine Nick Chubb and I'm sorry, Browns fans, but on a good team? I mean, on a team where he just was the finisher. He was the coup de grace. And instead, you see him playing. He's playing at a Hall of Fame level right now. I'm not saying Nick Chubb should go in the Hall of Fame. What I'm saying is the Hall of Fame, like the archetype players, like the comet going through the sky, that's Nick Chubb right now, the way he's playing. And this team could be 5-0. You saw, again, Donovan Peoples-Jones had one great drive. He had a nice catch out of bounds. You did see David Njoku. He's not going away. But Cease, you saw these things. 4th and 1 at their own 34, and Kareem Hunt was thrown for a loss. I mean, again, I like being bold, going for it in your own 34-yard line. What does expected value win probability say about that? Cade York missed 2 field goals. Cade York has been clutch. There's a rookie. Jacoby Brissett threw an interception at the goal line late, and then they still had a chance to win after that 4th down and 2. There's so many ways they could have won this game, and that's usually what we're saying about the Chargers. And then you get, and this is again a 2-3 team that should be 5-0 or at least 4-1, a good offense, and then they face New England next week. And New England, like again, sees always the foreign object in the trunks, and Cleveland. You got Deshaun Watson coming. Jacoby Brissett's playing well, better than expectations, but it still feels like this team finds a way to lose instead of win.
That's usually what they do. Houston and Jacksonville. Just when we thought we could trust the Jaguars.
Right?
Here we go with Trevor Lawrence with those couple of picks, but it's Houston getting the win. 13-6 is the final score. So let's talk about it. Not much here, Bloom, on
not much meat on the bone.
Yeah, on either side. So this one will be a little quicker. But Davis Mills, 140 yards. Nico Collins had 4 for 65. I mean, maybe. Brandon Cooks, 4 for 20. Damian Pierce, 26 for 99. Please don't play in a league that only scores when you get 100 yards. That is so old school. And then you might play in a league where you get a bonus for 100 yards, but still 99 yards on the ground, a rushing touchdown for Damian Pierce, 3 for 14 as a receiver. Other than that, nothing else. But Houston did enough to win because Jacksonville kept dropping the ball.
See, that was just because that was back when fantasy football was played with stone tablets, and they used a base 100-yard games number system. That was all they could just count in 100-yard games. That's all they knew how to count for all of these wonderful analytical statistics. Analytics just tell us that when these two teams play, and what does it see? It's like the 9th time in a row Houston has beaten the Jags or something like that. When these teams play, you can predict how it's going to go based on how the teams have been playing. And finally, every team has a win. Pete Rozelle smiling somewhere. It was Pierce. It was just Pierce running really, really hard, and that's it. And that's all they needed. And I think you're going to see if the Texans can be a competitive team, and then it's just going to be miserable for Brandon Cooks. And, well, there's not really anybody else that you were counting on in this offense anyway. You are counting on Damian Pierce, who basically is a running back 1 at this point. Because, again, in fantasy football season, I think one of the things that we're having to really adjust to is tolerance for floor games. Justin Jefferson had a floor game. You're just going to have to tolerate floor games from players. When we're talking about someone's a running back 1 or a wide receiver 1, making air quotes, it's really it's ceiling games. That's what we care about. And Damian Pierce now is having his ceiling games with that amazing determination. And it's the same as what we saw in the preseason. See, sometimes we see a rookie in the preseason, and then against NFL players on Sundays, they look the same. So that preseason performance was indeed that indicator, a hit for fantasy. If you got him, even if you took him in the 5th round, even in the 4th round, it's looking good. And the Texans go into a bye saying, yeah, this is how we want to win games.
This is how the Jaguars don't want to play, especially with those 2 picks from Trevor Lawrence. You're trying to get things going. And, well, Marvin Jones Jr., 7 for 104 in this one. So there you go. Zay Jones did play, but 3 for 12 in this one. Christian Kirk, 1 for 11, only 3 targets. So you saw a heavy target structure for 11 of them for MJJ, and then 10 of them for Evan Ingram, 6 for 69. So tight end is brutal. You'll be happy if you played Evan Ingram with 6 for 69. Travis Etienne, 10 for 71. So he had a good day. Wish he would have got a touchdown. James Robinson, 10 for 27. Not so very good. Couple of catches also there for Robinson. So Jacksonville has talent. They're young. They're plucky, but didn't come together today.
No, and for fantasy, this is really a frustrating and disturbing development, Cease, because through 3 games, we thought this is a good offense, right? Trevor Lawrence is going to throw very well when he's targeting Christian Kirk, high efficiency. The plays are schemed up, Kirk out of the slot. We know that James Robinson, because they're a good team, is going to get full helping of running in the second half, going to get goal line carries, even if they're not efficient as a running team. And we thought we kind of had this offense pegged. And even Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback 2 super flex type, not necessarily a high ceiling play, but solid. And the Texans throw a monkey wrench into this. And we remember Zay Jones was actually leading this team in receptions after the first 3 weeks. Last week, they were playing in the monsoon against the Eagles. Come on. Let's not hold that against them. This week, okay, it's not Kirk. It's not Zay Jones. It's Ingram and Marvin Jones Jr. Okay, so now who do we trust next week against Indianapolis, whose defense is pretty good? It's James Robinson in a close game. It's Travis Etienne. And actually, Etienne looked like he was having a breakout game of sorts. Then he got thumped on a ball that he was trying to put away. They ruled it that it was not a reception. And he still had a couple of receptions late in garbage time as they were trying to get in position for a Hail Mary. But this backfield, we can't necessarily predict this, in part because we don't know if this team is going to get on winning game scripts that they lead, where it looked like that when they thumped the Chargers. They beat the Chargers like 38-10. That was, it was Herbert hurt and so on. But we think we have this stuff pegged. And by the way, Stingley for Houston looks like he's going to be outstanding. He caught an interception in the end zone. Another game, by the way, the Jags could have easily won this one, right? Lawrence throws an interception in the end zone. Kirk, they set him up. Everybody knew he was going to Kirk, and it was broken up on 4th down. And that was it. So Jacksonville, Indianapolis sees this as the AFC North. That's an important game, a game that could have division champion implications.
Yes, very much so. Bloom, we got some nice rookie corners this year.
Yeah.
Just
Sauce.
wait till I talk about Sauce. Wait till I talk about Tariq Woolen. Guy you could have gotten in the 5th round. Yeah. Instead, you had to get a Division II return man. Yay. Garbage. Yeah. Anyway, Bears and Vikings up next, and they got some fight in Chicago, which is a good thing. They need some fight, but they fall to Minnesota, and Minnesota wins 29-22, the final score. Bears are 2-3, Vikings 4-1. Justin Fields goes 15-21, 208 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Did the one rush get called back?
Yeah, 52-yard scramble.
Yeah. 8 for 47, no rushing touchdown, and hell, it would have been over 100 yards if they'd have counted that one. Dave Montgomery had 12 for 20 and a touchdown. Oh, he's back, which is fine. I don't have anything with David Montgomery. I just love Khalil Herbert so much. Montgomery 4 for 62 as a receiver. Darnell Mooney 2 for 52. Cole Kmet 4 for 45. You'll take that. And Deleuze Jones, watch him in dynasty formats with the receiving touchdown there as well. So you saw a little bit more from the Bears, and hell, Bloom, you thought maybe they'll pull this thing off.
Yeah, they were hanging in, and the defense and the offense making efforts. And see, I won't say Justin Fields is turning the corner, but there's something up ahead, and it might be a corner. Maybe when we get a little closer to it, we might find out it's a corner. Maybe it's not. Maybe
it's like when you're learning how to drive, and he's a little wobbly at the wheel.
Right.
But like he's like, oh, turn, so it's like, oh, and he's decelerating a little bit.
Yeah,
he's actually accelerating.
That's right. Yeah. Maybe we're going to get out of the driveway. Maybe. So and for fantasy, again, if he scores on that 52-yard run, if it's not called back, okay, now we're interested, and we should be interested anyway. Darnell Mooney, oh man, he's so good. His one-handed long catch, eventually it's going to come. I don't know when. I'm going to hold on to Darnell Mooney. I don't know if I'm going to play him. David Montgomery did have a touchdown, did look good, spry in the receiving game. Still not the most efficient runner. I guess he's the kind of player, especially behind the scenes, there's probably a lot of respect for him. He's certainly a player, I think, that gives 1,000% effort. So, yeah, Khalil Herbert, the Herbert dreams, we're not dropping him. He's definitely a hold on, but Montgomery's the guy we're going to play if we're going to play anybody, and that's it. And Chicago tried an onside kick in this one right after they scored. So, they're trying, and actually they didn't get it, but they blocked the field goal attempt that came out of that. So we'll see. There's some signs of life for this team, and they're playing Washington on Thursday. So we'll get to all watch Justin Fields and see, is it a corner or is it just another stumbling block coming up?
Yeah. Is it a corner or is it an embankment? Watch out for that. Right. Vikings side of things, and Kirk Cousins, he's got a lot of Cole's cash. 32 of 41, 296 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, but a rushing touchdown. You like that? From one Kirk Cousins. Dalvin Cook, 18 for 94, and 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. 2 for 27. A touchdown for each injured shoulder. Yeah. KJ Osborne, 5 for 41. Irv Smith, 4 for 42. Justin Jefferson, 12 for 154. And Adam Thielen, 4 for 27. That's kind of what you get. So Minnesota does win, but they had to pull the rabbit out of the hat to do that.
Yeah, this game was in question down to the end. Justin Jefferson, and against defenses that just don't know how to counteract this. You scheme him open, you get him matched up, and it's just taking candy from a baby. And certainly it's wonderful for fantasy. We had some ups, we had some downs, and now we can see the ups. You might be able to see this for DFS matchup. He's so matchup sensitive, but when it's good, it's very, very good. It was very, very good for Dalvin Cook. He didn't get the touchdowns last week. This week he does. And, that's just, again, we start to tolerate more of these floor games, 8 to 10 point games, when the opportunity is there for a game like this, and you like this matchup. By the way, Kirk Cousins had 17 straight completions to start this game. So what it was schemed up was working. Now in the second half, the Bears defense got better. Justin Jefferson even had a completion in this one during that 17 completion streak. That's how good this offense was going. Part of that also was a Jalen Reagor, just a little pop pass, little 6-inch, 1 foot long pass, but you get Reagor going, try to find some role for someone like him. If Tavon Austin can hang around the league for as long as he did, maybe he'll be back again. Then Jalen Reagor, you can find a use for him, maybe not in fantasy leagues. You did get Kirk Cousins with that sneak to put them over the top. And is Minnesota good? I don't know if Minnesota's good, but I don't know if you're good might be good enough to host a playoff game in the NFC, and they're going to face Miami next week. And I don't even know who's going to play quarterback for Miami.
Yeah, their Dolphins are reeling. The curse of Tua. We'll get to that in a little bit. By the way, it's Dustin's first time watching a live show, Bloom.
Oh, hey, Dustin.
Was he ready for the bucket hats?
Right.
Was he ready?
The rotation.
Yeah, because you listen to the show, you don't get to see the bucket hats.
No.
So there you have it. All right. It is the Audible, and it is, oh boy, Detroit and New England. Bill Belichick, he knows Jared Goff has nightmares about Bill Belichick. 29-0. Patriots win over the Lions. Goff only with 1 pick, 229, no touchdowns, 1 INT. And since he had no touchdowns, Josh Reynolds 6 for 92. Oh, this close. People did start him though this week. You're expecting some things. Sun God did play 4 for 18. Khalif Raymond, my buddy, 5 for 45. Craig Reynolds, 3 for 68, and then 6 for 24 on the ground. Jamal Williams, 15 for 56. And TJ Hawkinson, super powered to super disappointed I started him. 1 for 6 in today's contest. So again, Belichick's superpower is beating. He may not be able to win another Super Bowl ever again, but Belichick can beat the hell out of Jared Goff.
In general, when this defense can find a way to get the drop, right? See, so I'm thinking of like Mortal Kombat, those one-on-one fighting games. Some people, they were really good at blocking. Like they would just block everything you throw at them. And then eventually they would wear you down and you would lose. And that's kind of how this game went for Detroit. They were never really in it. And unlike the Super Bowl where you change the defense and you don't let all those pre-snap reads become valid upon the snap, in this one, I think some of it's just Detroit, the losses on offense really catching up. And you can feel Dan Campbell flailing. Speaking of the flailings, I hope that he doesn't get fired after this year if they have another really bad year, because this is a long-term project. And I think that building the culture first, building the coaching staff, building from the inside out on both sides of the ball, I like that idea. And give it time. Give him 3-4 years, please, because by playing Amon-Ra St. Brown on this one, you wondered you're going to play him the week before a bye, but he may be limited to 20 or 30 snaps. This was Jay Glazer before the game. Why? Really? You're not going to the playoffs this year, probably. I mean, really, this isn't about 2022. Okay, this is about 2023 or 2024. So I didn't like that. But you see like Dan Campbell goes for it at his own 45-yard line first. I like it. And I'll just stay consistent with it. And you would have had maybe another win. You see Jack Jones. Where did the Patriots find these defensive backs? You see Jack Jones with an interception in the red zone. You see Matt Judon. He's good. When Belichick signs a defensive free agent, he's probably really, really good. And it gives him the actually what the market says. And Kyle Duggar, scoop and score. And this is when like the bleeding really starts. There's another 4th down stop. And it just felt like all day, Cease, that they had the Lions offense checkmated, which is pretty impressive considering what the Lions offense had done up to this point, even though the Lions offense were without a lot of players. They took TJ Hawkinson out. I think whatever they anticipated, I think there was a lot where this Lions offense was going to rely more on TJ Hawkinson in this one, and it didn't work. So I just think that you have to take your hats off to this New England defense. They're going to face Nick Chubb next week. And for Detroit, it's a good time for a bye. But see, doesn't it feel like we just end up back to the same spot? I feel bad for Lions fans. I feel bad for Detroit fans. Like the Tigers are supposed to be better this year in baseball. The Lions, okay, year 2, we're back to the same spot. We're right back where we started, even though it feels like we've made it somewhere with this team.
Time is a loop.
Yeah.
You're just stuck. If you're a Detroit fan, New England side, it was all Ramondre Stevenson, and holy cow, Jacoby Myers scored. So there you go. Bailey Zappi in, because everybody's hurt. 17 or 21, 188, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. What did we say about Zappi last week? Game's not too big for him. Processor fast. Not a real great quarterback, but not going to be too confused out there.
No.
Jacoby Myers, 7 for 111 and 1 touchdown. Good job, Jacoby. Hunter Henry, 4 for 54. Nobody else. Well, you got Kendrick Bourne with one catch. But Ramondre Stevenson, 25 for 161 on the ground. And then 2 for 14, just for good measure as a receiver. Damian Harris, 4 for 11. And then a catch for a yard. So the Patriots did it with all Stevenson and all Myers, and Zappi being efficient.
Yeah. See, this is exactly what you want in a backup quarterback, right? Just don't lose it. Just don't lose the game. That's all. And you get a backup quarterback with a 4th-round pick. You did really good with your 4th-round pick. Backup quarterbacks are expensive, and, well, they can change the course of your season like Bailey Zappi is right now. For fantasy, it makes sense that he would target Jacoby Myers, right? Now that Myers is healthier, that's the guy who's going to come open the earliest in the progressions. And maybe Matt Patricia and Joe Judge calling plays and making an offense. In this case, simplicity is good. Another simplicity part here was the running game and Damian Harris. Wow. And look, Zappi had an interception. They got set up by their defense here, but Zappi made the plays and Ramondre Stevenson made the plays. And Harris goes down, Damian Harris with his hamstring here. So we'll probably see Stevenson get a start. Stevenson just exactly what we thought. And this is a team that can run the ball well. I think this is an offense that really has made it so that they're going to stick with the run. Ramondre Stevenson, he's probably project him as a top 7 running back next week, assuming Damian Harris doesn't amazingly rally from a hamstring injury. So that's a huge hit right now for fantasy leagues as the plate tectonics continue. And I think New England sees this feeling like, hey, you haven't seen our best side yet. We're going to get better. We're going to get better on defense. We're going to get better on offense. And it's Belichick, man. I guess we can never underestimate him, even though his taste in coaches might be a little bland.
Yeah. We'll leave that alone. Not good people, allegedly, or whatever I have to say, right? Because if we bring up Matt Patricia, then I just throw up in my mouth and I'm like, oh, we can't really talk about that. Yeah, don't. We're not supposed to talk about that. Whatever. He's a creep. Anyway, allegedly, or whatever I have to say. Seahawks and Saints, Bloom. That is the next game up. That is a game that was quite entertaining, and that's what we watch for, right? We certainly don't watch to fall asleep like you did on Thursday night. Oh my God. But the Saints win 39-32, the final score. Geno throws for 3 touchdowns and no INTs because he's not hurt, everybody. 268 through the air. Tyler Lockett, 5 for 104 and 2 touchdowns. DK Metcalf, 5 for 88, 1 touchdown. Noah Fant, 3 for 49. Will Dissly, 2 for 21. Kenneth Walker, 8 for 88 and a rushing touchdown. Could have used a little bit more. But let's talk about how Seattle almost pulled this one off. It was a back and forth.
Yeah.
And their fourth quarter had you thinking maybe Seattle is going to get this one down in the Big Easy.
Yeah, and again, the theme here for fantasy is Geno Smith is going to have value and use for us in fantasy, maybe even be a top 10, top 12 quarterback in typical one quarterback leagues and every week starter. But also that I think it's just so great to see him and Jacoby Brissett also show the league that they're starting quality quarterbacks. And there should be no reason for someone like Baker Mayfield to start over them going forward. Hopefully, we're going to get to see them start for at least a few more years and get a chance to show what they can do. Because with Geno Smith, you see him keeping the play alive, hitting DK Metcalf downfield. You see him throwing the bombs like he's Russell Wilson.
Well, and dude, when they were down and you were watching Geno out there just kind of like keep plays alive, I was like, they're not out of it.
No.
How many guys can you watch? Baker Mayfield, you mentioned, and there's reasons, Bloom, but Baker Mayfield, and they're down. You think they got any chance? Watching Baker run around,
Marcus
doesn't have any idea what he's doing.
Mitchell Trubisky, really,
exactly. Yeah, right. But you see Geno out there, and it was like he's in the chaos. He's got some command.
Yeah, he does. And he's not. And see, this is going back to West Virginia. Going back to watching him in West Virginia. It's again the processor. His processor is fast. So he's fine. It's just giving him the opportunity and maybe surrounded by some good players. And that's for fantasy what we really have to adjust to is DK Metcalf 5th, 6th round, he's today's 2nd, 3rd round. Tyler Lockett 10th round, say he's 4th, 5th round because they're consistent. We're not going to get questions about Metcalf and Lockett. Do I start them anymore? And we aren't going to get questions about Rashard Penny for a while. He went down with the leg injury, looked pretty gnarly. Maybe season ending, I don't know, but this was a scenario. And since we do all this prep pre-draft, well, maybe you don't because you're smart to not get down in the weeds with the rest of us and do rankings and all this nonsense.
There's a moment where you stop doing that. You do prep all the way up to like mid-August and then let it breathe, baby.
Yeah.
Let it breathe.
And when you looked at Penny and Walker, they're both going around the 9th round in drafts. And you thought, well, Penny looked so good at the end of the year, and he's the guy going in. But you thought it's Penny.
It's not going to last.
It sucks. It really sucks because this seemed not like an injury that was because of his physiology not being able to hold up or his training regimen or who even knows. Like Dr. Gene would warn us, hey, injury prone, I don't like that term. I don't want to put words in his mouth. There might be a few guys who are truly injury prone, but still, see, in some ways, it's just empirical. Like this many times Rashard Penny has been on the field and this many times he's left injured. So we don't even need to have a hypothesis or anything behind it. It's just as simple as it happens a lot. So if you're going to guess what's going to happen next, probably that again. And now you have Kenneth Walker, who, if he was released, he's every last dollar. He spent every last dollar. He breaks off a 69-yard touchdown run in this one to give them the lead late in the game. And it's here. It's here. I mean, not only is this not a bottom half of the league offense or offense that's going to hold back the good players in it, we're getting closer to a multiplier effect now, especially if Walker is everything that he has been promised. And this is a fun Seattle team for fantasy, and it's going to be a fun matchup for fantasy against Arizona next week.
All about Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill. That's right. Because here we go. Andy Dalton starting again. 187, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. But Taysom Hill, gadget. Go, gadget. 1 touchdown pass. 3 rushing touchdowns. 9 for 112 and 3. And you might play in a league where you still get to declare him as a tight end. Alvin Kamara back. 23 for 103. And then 6 for 91 as a receiver. Chris Olave, 4 for 54. Adam Troutman, 2 for 32 and a touchdown. So there you have it. It's all about Kamara in this one. And at home, Seattle didn't have an answer for the tight end quarterback, whatever he is.
Yeah, and he should be a tight end. He was declared a tight end going into the season. We don't do mid-season taking away of.
And don't play in a damn league because I've gotten questions of this. Like my commissioner is trying to. No, get out of the tight end that league immediately.
He's a tight end. Yeah.
Leave that league
for the
immediately.
Rest of the year. Exactly. We don't take. We can add position eligibility during the season. We don't take it away. Because that's just everybody knew this, and he's not even remotely close to the full-time quarterback. But see, I think that it's safe to say this will forever be the Taysom Hill game, right? I mean, it was just he was the irresistible force. It wasn't just the 3 touchdowns on the ground. It wasn't he threw a touchdown. He threw blocks downfield on Alvin Kamara runs. He recovered a fumble on special teams. It's a good thing that Taysom Hill's not the every down quarterback, because he probably would just turn himself into dust because of how much he gives on every play. And when you watch these runs, it was to the point where the broadcast team knew, and the Saints were running formations and personnel sets that, like, you almost want to hear the film projector start, like, I can't do it. It's like sepia tone. It's like we're there you go, and we're going back to the 40s, the 30s, maybe even the 20s, right? Where you just get a bunch of dudes running downhill and say, get out the way because Taysom's coming. And he had the long touchdown run, about a 60-yarder this game was going back and forth. It really felt like, even as not truly a Saints fan, but following the Saints closely, living down here, like, you just become to dread these games because it's going to be a ref's call. It's going to be a fumble. It's going to be something. And the something was something good. It was Taysom Hill. And yeah, I guess, especially at tight end, you keep playing him because it looks to me, Cease, like the Saints can just see based on the defense who is not going to be when Atlanta can never handle Taysom Hill, right? He had a big game against Atlanta, and then they saw something. They saw something because they kept going to this, and I think that I don't know which weeks is going to happen, but obviously the ceiling is amazing for those of you that took Taysom Hill in best ball leagues. I mean, he justified his value and then some. So you did see, like you said, he's also Alvin Kamara running really well, and it's Andy Dalton, so he's going to get a lot of short receptions. So you'd like to see him for your fantasy teams now, providing a huge margin of victory for you. A big game, even though he wasn't Taysom Hill in this one. Chris Olave did score a touchdown. It was one of those plays where I'm really surprised they gave him the touchdown, because he caught the touchdown, then he got slammed to the ground, hit his head on the turf. He was probably out. He's probably unconscious. And they did give him the touchdown. And I think what's going to be interesting, because we're going to talk about this more, I believe, the next game, Cease?
Miami.
Yes, the next game. Yes. So we can save it for the Miami talk, but I think the Tua, for better or worse, has changed football. I think the two situations changed it. I think that when you saw Olave go down, now he's not coming back. He's not going to be back in the game. And we'll talk a little bit more about the other implications here. But New Orleans, this is a team that, again, it's kind of like the Chargers and the Browns. Are they good? I don't know, but I think they can beat a good team. And even though the Seahawks, are they good? Does this count? Not necessarily, but hey, Cincinnati's coming next week. That's a pretty good team. And New Orleans, I think you saw them really get up off the deck. Remember, this team lost to the Panthers, but they beat the Seahawks. And very much for all these teams, the season is very much alive.
Whew, Skylar Thompson time, everybody. Miami Dolphins, New York Jets. Too bad it wasn't a win, because it was 40-17. Whew, my goodness. Jets, Robert Saleh, 3-2. Dolphins now 3-2, and they haven't looked the same, Bloom.
No.
Since the Tua thing. And now Skylar Thompson did get in there. Of course, Teddy Bridgewater starting the game. He's out. Here comes Skylar Thompson, who we love. 19-33, 166, no touchdowns, 1 INT. I will say, like Bailey Zappi, although I like him way more than Bailey Zappi. The processor, it's not too big. It wasn't out there, deer in the headlights type stuff. Tyreek Hill, 7 for 47. Mike Gesicki, 1 for 30. Why am I talking about these receivers? They didn't do anything.
No.
So Jalen Waddle, 3 for 23. Raheem Mostert did a lot, 18 for 113 and a touchdown. And Durham Smythe got a rushing touchdown, huh? It is the Dolphins. They're going to run with whoever. Chase Edmonds, the forgotten man. But either way, the Dolphins need to figure some stuff out. They certainly, the Tua thing is kind of hanging over, weighing on this team, weighing on my friend Mike McDaniel. We'll see how they respond going forward. They got thumped today.
Yeah, they did. Thumped by the Jets. And what you saw early on, Sauce Gardner comes on a blitz and gets home basically. They get a safety, and Teddy gets thrown down to the ground on that one, and enter Skylar Thompson, who, like you said, just is a first time out there when you're really not prepared. It wasn't exactly a revelation, but there's something there to work with. And I think a lot of teams would love to have a third quarterback as good as Skylar Thompson. Although for fantasy, no, you don't love him in there. Tyreek Hill did something at least. And that was basically it, except for Raheem Mostert, who you see with Thompson. They go to the running game, get it more established. And by the way, Teron Armstead also got hurt in this one. But you saw Mostert really get on track. The Durham Smythe touchdown sees. I think this is one of those plays that McDaniel had in a dream and woke up and had to write it down. It's okay. So the quarterback's going to pretend that he's barking stuff out, and then the tight end's going to sneak up under center real fast. We're just going to snap the ball to tight end. It's going to be a walk-in touchdown, and it worked. And I don't know if you're going to be able to do it again. Maybe you save that for the playoffs or a 2-point conversion or something. I don't know. We'll see. So the concussion and Tua. So Teddy leaves the game, being checked for a head injury, also listed with an elbow injury. Does not re-enter the game, but they can't tell us which injury. The new protocol, and look, there's going to be some sorting out of this. I don't know, Tom Pelissero maybe. I can't remember who was it tweeted something.
It was Pelissero, but the NFL always figures this stuff out on the fly. You really don't think about this ahead of time?
Exactly. So it was something about the independent observer basically ruled Teddy out. and it didn't matter whether he actually had a concussion or not. At least that's now. Watch them walk some of this back. Watch them say, no, 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 no. That's not actually what happened. Okay. But it seems to me like the new protocol, and maybe this is something that they're going to change, or maybe it's one of those things they say, we'll leave it like it is on the books, but we're going to ask you to apply it this way.
It's the playoffs, Bloom. That's when it'll change, when guys will force their way to be out there. It's just like when the NFL solved Koof. Remember, like 400 players a month of December, and then the playoffs started and nobody had Koof.
Right.
Sorry, YouTube.
So it's true. So we'll see. But the point is, this game brought up something about this new post-Tua protocol that maybe is not what the NFL anticipated or wasn't totally understood that was going to be the ramifications. So does that mean we'll see Teddy? I don't know how bad his elbow injury is. Next week against Minnesota, we'll see. We'll see about this Miami team. They've had like multiple seasons within just one season, and so have the Jets.
Yeah, so have the Jets. So good on you, Jets. 40 points. A lot of it was, well, Breece Hall and Michael Carter, those two running backs. And I believe we talked about Carter on the Waiver Wire show as a hold on, because talented players I hold on to. Talented players in situations where there's another player emerging next to him, I still hold on to that guy. I've gotten questions on Twitter about Michael Carter. It's like, Michael Carter can play, and he got you 2 touchdowns today. Now, maybe you didn't have him in, but he got 2 touchdowns. Everything was on the ground. Zach Wilson rushing touchdown. Braxton Berrios rushing touchdown. 2 for Michael Carter. Breece Hall, 18 for 97, a rushing touchdown. And then 2 for 100 as a receiver, that big 79-yarder. Corey Davis, 2 for 38. Garrett Wilson, 3 for 27. So everything being on the ground, 5 rushing touchdowns, Bloom. Zach Wilson didn't need to do much through the air, but hey, guess what? That works.
Yeah. Well, and that's a problem for fantasy in terms of Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. Yeah. Tyler Conklin. But that's okay with this defense. Again, Sauce Gardner, with Quinnen Williams. There was one where Carl Lawson had a sack and Quinnen Williams recovered it in a sign that, hey, this team has balance. I mean, they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. So it was Hall. This was your Breece Hall breakout game. And he had 2 different plays where he took the ball down to the 1. I think those were both the Michael Carter touchdowns. So this easily could have been, if you had Breece Hall in your lineup, you won this week. And if you had Breece Hall in your lineup in DFS, you made money this week. And you probably still did. He still had an amazing game. It was just this close to be a spectacular game. And see, like you said about Carter, look, he's a good player and a good offense. Looks like a good offense, a good team. They played like a very good team in this one. And it's just, see, so we're seeing the ebb and flow. And we're also seeing some of these teams, like Robert Saleh warned us. This isn't you think you know this team. You don't know this team yet. This team may not even know this team yet. And you saw them winning going away. You saw a nice Zach Wilson dive for a touchdown. And you saw, as you said, and it makes sense, right? It's kind of like Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur. You get a good running back duo. You establish the run, guys that can both catch the ball out of the backfield too. You set up your quarterback so when he makes throws, he throws high percentage throws to good players. Imagine if Aaron Rodgers had even one of Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson, even Corey Davis. So this is coming together, and it's going to be really interesting to watch them against Green Bay. Let's compare and contrast.
Compare, contrast, and move on. It is Atlanta and Tampa Bay, the next game that we're going to talk about in the Week 5 recap here on the Audible. And Tampa gets the win, of course. We all knew they would. 21-15, though. Like, especially when it was 13-0 at half. I was like, oh, they're going to put it on them. And then they kind of didn't. So Marcus Mariota, 147 yards, touchdown, no INTs. Olamide Zaccheaus, 2 for 39 and a touch. Very few people started him. You might have started Drake London, 4 for 35. Of course, no Kyle Pitts in this one. Doesn't matter. Marcus Mariota, 61 yards on the ground. It was Avery Williams. When the Williams scored, I was like, is that D? What is it? A? Why is it A? Is it D? No. Oh, it's Avery. It's not Damian. All right. Too many questions. Not enough answers for the Falcons today.
Yeah. See, I come out of this one just thinking, when are we going to see Desmond Ridder? Can we see Desmond Ridder?
Right.
Can we see Desmond Ridder? Please. And look, Mariota was okay for fantasy. He actually racked up some yards as a runner in this one. He did throw a touchdown in this one. They did come back from a 21-0 deficit to make Tampa Bay sweat. Unlike some of the other ones when they almost won in a comeback, they didn't get the ball back. But Mariota's just limiting for this offense. No, Kyle Pitts is limiting for this offense too. And Desmond Ridder is not going to be like Kenny Pickett. I don't think you're going to see Desmond Ridder come out and throw 50 passes, okay? But he could still invigorate this offense. And yeah, it's a 3-way running back split. The touchdown goes to Lammey was Zacchaeus, not Drake London. Tampa Bay's defense is good, but not that good. But you did see Arthur Smith has a team playing hard. They're competing, but I think that you need to see what Desmond Ridder can do. You need to see, because next year you may be taking a quarterback early. That's all I could think as I was watching this game, except when Tampa had the ball, I thought all I could think was, how many times are they going to throw the ball to Leonard Fournette?
Yeah, how many catches? Well, 10 to be precise, 10 for 83 and a touchdown. Rachaad White couldn't have done that? Okay. Leonard Fournette also rushing touchdown, 14 for 56. Tommy Brady, 351, 1 touchdown to Leonard Fournette. No INTs. Mike Evans, 4 for 81. Chris Godwin, 6 for 61. Cade Otton, 6 for 43. That'll work in PPR formats, Bloom. And then Rachaad White, 5 for 14 on the ground. And then 3 for 28 as a receiver. Russell Gage did play, 2 for 20. And Kyle Rudolph did play, but you couldn't notice. 1 target, no catches. So anyway, let's talk about Tampa and move quickly on to our final game.
Yeah, dink and dunk. Tom Brady says no shame in dink and dunk. No shame in that at all. No shame in that. Where it can rack up decent fantasy numbers. Obviously for Leonard Fournette, who looked like maybe last week. And look, Rachaad White didn't go away. Don't drop Rachaad White. He's going to be in hold on this week because he's got the juice. Brady likes him. Leonard Fournette misses time, and he fits well in this dink and dunk approach. And so does Chris Godwin. Yeah. It wasn't necessarily a big game, but the big games are coming for Godwin because his strengths match up very well with the strengths of this offense. And look, this team could have scored more. Grady Jarrett stuffed Leonard Fournette on a 4th down deep. Now, I do have to say this, Cecil, though, because we are Steelers honks, right? Grady Jarrett sacks Tom Brady. It's 21-15. Arthur Smith does the right thing. They score a touchdown, make it 21-13, about 5 minutes left. Go for 2 to get it. 21-15. We're getting somewhere. 3rd down, Grady Jarrett sacks Brady, and all he does is just grabs him around the waist and throws him down. I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to get some part of his body, his elbow, gluteus, knee, something for the player to be down. Sometimes you have to throw the guy down if he's like, I'm not going down. Well, yes, you are. Like, a wrestling a takedown. Just they called roughing the passer. On not just roughing the passer, questionable. Questionable doesn't even begin to describe this call. It was the pivotal point in the game. It was the pivotal point in the game where Atlanta was going to get the ball back and have a chance to go down and win. So it's Tom Brady. He's going to get those calls, and he's going to go to Pittsburgh next week.
You know, it reminded me of, Bloom, when I'd have much better time talking about it than talking about the current incarnation of the Buccaneers or this game against Atlanta. It's the Jordan rules. It's the Jordan rules, baby. That's where Tommy Brady's at. When you have GOAT status, you're going to get that call, as bogus as it was. Tennessee and Washington, final game we're going to talk about. Week 5 recap here on the Audible. And, oh boy, we got some stuff to talk about in this one. Tennessee side, of course, because they won 21-17. And Ryan Tannehill, 181 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Derrick Henry, 28 for 102, 2 touchdowns. Okay. Dontrell Hilliard, the receiving touchdown. Okay. Backs showing up. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, 2 for 72. All right. Robert Woods, 4 for 37. There could have been more there, Bloom. 8 targets, by the way, for Woods, only 4 catches. And you're not starting or considering anyone else. Although I do love to see when Chiggy Okonkwo gets on the field, because that's my dude. Love that guy. But he didn't get anything today. Got a target. So the Titans win. They do it their normal way. Bludgeon you with Henry until you say uncle.
Yeah, and get a play at the very end. By the way, news I'm seeing just now, by the way, Tyreek Hill's in a walking boot after the game. So let's watch poor Miami. Quickly these things fall apart. This game was one for Tennessee. Is Tennessee just going to win the division again? I think probably, maybe. I mean, you look back, see they got thumped by the Bills. Okay, no shame in that. And they lost a last-second game to the 4-1 Giants. That doesn't look so bad now. Otherwise, this team is figuring out how to win, and facing Carson Wentz makes it a little bit easier. But it was a lot of Derrick Henry and a few efficient passes by Ryan Tannehill, keeping Derrick Henry involved even as a receiver. Henry finishing 2 drives, and even on the drive that Henry didn't finish, it was basically a fake to Henry, which left Dontrell Hilliard all by himself, an easy touchdown reception for him. So you're still using Henry, even on the plays when Henry's not touching the ball. He has the attention. And again, this team, Mike Vrabel. I mean, it's that Mike Vrabel intensity and energy. And Cease, I guess when we wrote them off after they were 0-2, that's exactly what Mike Vrabel wanted, right? Team goes into the bye, thinking, hey, we don't care about winning pretty. We've got Derrick Henry, who's now on track, even though they've had a loss of Harold Landry, but Dupree's not healthy. They're still finding ways to get pressure, to force plays, to force turnovers, like the one that ended this game.
That's exactly what Vrabel wanted.
Yeah.
You can't have anything nice.
Yeah.
Can't have anything nice if you're Tennessee because you'll mess it up. But you want to fight, you want to mud it out, you want to come up from the mud. That's what the Titans can do. Let's talk about the Commanders. And I thought Brian Robinson would get a little bit more, not much more, but he did get 9 for 22. Good to see him back out there. Antonio Gibson then didn't do anything, 3 for 6, and then 3 for 33 as a receiver. So there's something. And Carson Wentz, 359 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. And I believe, Bloom, on our newswire, when I wrote about Jahan Dotson not playing, I think it was on Friday, I said, well, De'Ami Brown will be like a what the heck flex. Well, if that happened, then great. 2 for 105 and 2 touchdowns. That's the stat line you love, right? I only had 2 catches for over 100 yards, and both of them were scores. So Terry McLaurin, 5 for 76. Curtis Samuel, 6 for 62. Again, no Dotson. But that third receiver for Washington, Wentz is going to find him. It doesn't matter if it's Dotson, Brown, whoever.
Yeah, the whole Carson Wentz experience, again, right? The reason they can stay in this game is because of his deep arm and eerie deep accuracy, which we saw at times when he was with the Eagles. Went Terry McLaurin for fantasy, went him on the end of some of those, but still with Logan Thomas out, with Jahan Dotson out, the ones we expected, Curtis Samuel, McLaurin, they came through. We didn't expect De'Ami Brown to come through. One was a one-handed catch, a one-handed touchdown catch on a deep ball. Yeah. My, oh my. And this was his game. This was Brown's game in college. Where was he at? He's North Carolina. Am I remembering that correctly? Anyway, that was his game. Go run after it. And he did. And Carson Wentz can do that and drive the team down to the 1 yard line and throw an interception. David Long getting it at the end of the game. So it was right there for Washington. Washington sees that's the team that should win the AFC South, right? They should have beaten Tennessee. They beat Jacksonville, right? Washington. That just shows you the comparison across these divisions, but it's still a loss. And it's interesting how these things work out because the running game, Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, I just don't know if it's going to get on track. We're going to see them play Thursday night against Chicago, but a loss is a loss. And I don't know when we're going to see Sam Howell. And again, you could say, I think it's pretty clear, unless Sam Howell is going to really shock us, the team's going to get worse if they go from Wentz to Howell. But is this where you want to stay? Quarterback purgatory, right? Is this where you want to stay? You have a quarterback good enough to keep you in the game but not win the game? It's Washington, so who knows how they make decisions at the top of that franchise. But I know they've got to be exactly. They got to be frustrated here. And, again, Carson Wentz, sometimes you can watch a game and a player will show his whole nature, all of it, all the facets of it in just one game. And that seems to be Carson Wentz.
That's Carson Wentz all the time. When your owner, it's totally not the owner. He gave the team to his wife. When your owner have to goes to international waters to avoid the FBI.
This is a Bond movie? No, it's an Austin Powers movie.
Are you Hans Gruber? No, Hans Gruber. No, Dan Snyder. Awful person. Awful.
He's like the NFL owner from The Simpsons, like if you make the most exaggerated cartoonish version, even Jerry Jones says, "Come on, man,
come on, dude,
come back to the herd."
Give him a Persian cat and a monocle, and he'd be a Bond villain.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That is a wrap for the Week 5 recap. And I know the late games are going on.
Yeah.
Late games are going on. What are there, Bloom? 3 of them right now? Right. Going on. So we're, this is it. And we'll talk about the other stuff on Tuesday when we come back for the Waiver Wire show. We appreciate you, Bloom. I know you appreciate the kind thoughts from everybody coming in, not only the chat room, but also I saw on your Twitter as well.
Yeah, and it's good. I feel all y'all, you're there for me the way that you tell me that I'm there for you. And again, I'll just say, without Cecil Lammey, I'm sure you wouldn't be listening to me, but certainly without Sigmund L. Bloom, you wouldn't be listening to me. And my late mother, may she rest in peace, Tony Belsky. And it's a really a terrific thing to get to share your life with people the way we get to share with people, because as we always talk about, the internet is real in the sense that we are all connected to each other. And when you all glow positively on our behalf, we receive it and it helps us, and it makes it great that we know in some way we can help you. And I hope we can continue to do that.
You guys rock. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Stay tuned, everyone. And as always, stay frosty.